The NFC South has gone through Tampa Bay since Tom Brady was playing. Going to hit one reason for optimism for the Bucs and the three teams trying to knock them off the throne for the first time in 5 years. Our Pete Prisco at Bucs camp, where Baker Mayfield had this to say about Mike Evans.
When you have a guy that the caliber of Mike, a Hall of Fame guy, that he attracts so many people to try and cover him, whether it's double coverage, different looks for him. So a lot of the same things. We're going to try and move him around, get him some single coverage, and then it goes back to, okay, you guys want to play two high safeties? We still have to be able to run the rock, and that's something that we really, really improved on last year, and we got to keep getting better.
All right, Douzable and Mike Renner are here. One reason for optimism for each of the teams in the NFC South, beginning with the favorites from Tampa. And your reason plays right off that interview.
Yeah, this is probably the best receiving group in all the NFL. Right now, we know that the receiver, Chris Goodwin, is hurt right now, but he's still playing at a Pro Bowl level before he got the injury. Mike Evans is still there. Emeka Egbuka, Baker Mayfield can't stop talking about this young guy from Ohio State that they took in the first round. But let's not also forget, Jalen McMillan was there. He showed up really big when Chris Godwin got hurt last year and showed that he could be a true number 2 receiver. Trey Palmer's still there. They took Tez Johnson later on in the draft, and you see Emeka Egbuka's rankings right there at Ohio State. Everybody knew that he was a playmaker, but I think it's the intangibles and how he leads by examples that is what's really going to separate him from a lot of receivers on the Bucs team. So this receiving core is going to be explosive, and it's going to be up to first-year offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard. Can he get them in positions to make plays? You heard Baker Mayfield talk to Pete about it. They're going to move Mike Evans around and try to get him the ball in different ways. Saw that right there. 11 consecutive seasons with over 1,000 yards receiving. They got even better this offseason at the receiving core.
Yeah, this receiving core is so insanely deep. They foolproofed it with these two older wide receivers that are your 1 and 2 in Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Well, if they have minor injuries, they get hurt, you got a guy stepping in who's more than capable of filling those shoes. But I also love their depth that they've added to the cornerback position. Their second and third rounders this year, Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame, Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State, they were both top 50 players on my draft board. Guys who I saw as NFL-ready impact corners to a secondary that was so banged up a year ago. So they've kind of foolproofed both those position groups to where we thought, if they do suffer injuries, if those strike at some point in time, that it could be a problem. Well, not for this Tampa Bay Bucs team. The next guy up at either of those positions is going to be starting caliber, and that's how you remain atop the NFC South.
Bucs going for their 5th straight division championship. For the other teams in that division, maybe a little bit harder to find optimism, but we can find one. For me, Bryce Young kind of turning things around at the end of last season. That helped. And how about the return of defensive lineman Derek Brown, who got hurt in week 1 and has a message for the rest of the league?
Not to have success, but to come off and finish strong at the end of the year last year, and then seeing guys turn around OTAs and come out here, and we watched that completely. And I see it in everybody's eyes. Man, it's the level of effort that we put in the team. It's the level, and I got to just kind of sit back and watch it this spring. I didn't get to do much team, and I'm excited. And I got to tell everybody I'm excited to get back with the team, do my role, do my part.
Yeah, they aren't as big a long shots as you might think. They're 4-1 to win the division. Lige, you spent some time at Panthers camp last week. What makes you optimistic?
I can tell you this, Haas. I've had the privilege of going to Carolina's training camp practices for 3 consecutive years. Hands down, this is the most talent I've ever seen on a Carolina Panthers roster in the last 5 years. That's optimism right there. More specifically, you could even look at the receiver position. Tetero McMillan, Xavier Legette, big physical receivers. Hunter Renfrow comes back, and he's starting to get his footing again, and he is one of the best route runners in football. And you see it on display. I saw it throughout training camp when I was there. You still have Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker there. They have depth. David Moore, that's their receiver 6 now, where last year he was receiver 3. So the addition of talent, you see Xavier Legette, and the way that Dave Canales calls this offense and the way he's able to scheme things up, he's using those bigger bodies of Tetero McMillan to spot up in zone and box guys out and catch the football. We saw the growth of Bryce Young down the stretch. And if it wasn't for the deficiency of talent at the receiver position, they probably win more games at the end of the year. Xavier Legette went through some drops as a young rookie last year, But Bryce Young played really good football down the stretch. Two-headed monster at running back, right, with Rico Dotto and Chuba Hubbard. Like, this is the first time, guys, that when I went to the Carolina Panthers camp in the last 3 years, where I was like, this is what it's supposed to look like. From the trenches, from the skill position players, offense, defensive line, like, they have some talent. They're going to be a team that nobody is going to want to face. They're going to be one of those annoying teams that you're going to have to fight and claw for 4 quarters to win a game against them. Look for significance, or look for them to be significantly better this year, the Carolina Panthers. Again, they're going to be one of those annoying teams this year in the NFL.
Yeah, when the Panthers traded up for Bryce Young, they didn't really think it through, giving away DJ Moore, thinking they're like, hey, we drafted number 1. He could do it all on his own. Well, not really many quarterbacks can do it all on their own in the NFL. So for the first 2 years, he did not have a good receiving core whatsoever. This is the first time he actually has a real receiving core with real depth and guys that you can rely on. And what I love is how young they are, whether it's Tetairoa McMillan, who is obviously first-year player, but then Xavier Legette, last year's first-rounder, and Jalen Coker, all those guys who could be like their 1, 2, 3 this season, all those guys will be on their rookie contracts through Bryce Young's rookie contract, which means that they get to grow together, that this is just the start of something to build more momentum into years to come. So if you're a Panthers fan, that's got to be very, very exciting for the future.
A year ago at this time, the Atlanta Falcons were the favorites with Kirk Cousins coming in. They drafted Michael Penix. Now he is going to be the starter, so he's the new guy leading the offense. They also have a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Ulbrich, who takes over a defense that just could not get to the quarterback last season.
Intensity all day long.
Yeah,
awesome. That's exactly what we need. Great defense does not exist without it. It's just it's controlled anger, it's controlled chaos, it's controlled aggression, all those things, and that takes discipline and it takes work. And I'm glad we're getting to that place of where it's right there. I want to throw a punch and I don't. So the more that we can do that out here and take it to that place, the better we'll be in those games when that stuff happens, because it's going to happen. It's guaranteed.
Now, Ulbrich wasn't there last year, but they were second to last in sacking the quarterback, second to last in passing yards allowed. Lige, why do you believe that they're going to get to the quarterback this season?
Yeah, I got so excited. I forgot we had this thought from Jeff Ulbrich, and I spoke a little early, and it's because I feel like they found their pass rush. Vic Beasley, 2016 and Mike, that was the last time they had a double-digit sack guy. They went and they bring in Leonard Floyd, who every single year has been Mr. Consistent, 8 to 10 sacks. And then they got aggressive in the first round of the draft. Jalen Walker falls to them, so they draft him. He's a guy that can play interior linebacker and play outside linebacker, which he will in this game to get after the quarterback. And then they doubled down and got one of the most successful pass rushers in college football last year, and James Pierce in the first round. So now they have subsequent depth. Arnold Ebiketie, who's been a starter for them the last couple of years, back-to-back 6-sack seasons. He's going to be a guy that's going to come off the bench fresh for them. And you see the guys that they drafted and all the acquisitions they have. I talked about Leonard Floyd there, got Jalen Walker, James Pierce. But another guy that I want to highlight, Braylon Trice, who they drafted in the 3rd round from Washington, was having a phenomenal camp. Goes down with a knee injury versus Miami in the preseason game. He'll come back fresh this year as well. So now, when you talk about Raheem Morris's defense, and more specifically, Jeff Ulbrich's defense when he was with the Jets, it was all about the defense creating havoc and getting in the backfield. Now they have those horses up front to get after the quarterback. You talked about it earlier, Haas. Second to last in the NFL in sacks. And going back almost a decade, they haven't had a double-digit sack guy. I believe that streak ends this year with the Atlanta Falcons.
While I do expect their defense to improve, Legit, you got to be serious here. The reason to be excited is Michael Penix's left arm. What we saw from him in those 3 games, I mean, that is why you are elated going into this season if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan. I can't remember a rookie coming in and having like one of those little trial periods. It kind of felt like when we saw Patrick Mahomes in that Week 18 game, or I guess it was Week 17 back then, against the Denver Broncos, and you're like, oh, wait, that's kind of like what it should look like at the quarterback position. Going from this super conservative Alex Smith to this aggressive guy in Patrick Mahomes, that was what it was like with Kirk Cousins going to Michael Penix. His average depth of target was over 2.5 yards deeper down the football field than Kirk Cousins' was. And it's not just because he has that arm talent, it's just the way he plays the quarterback position. He doesn't take sacks, the ball is out on time, in rhythm, and he's aggressive down the football field. And so with this receiving core, for, that hopefully they have Darnell Mooney back for. But if they don't, I think it's still good enough to produce, but it's Michael Penix's left arm and the electricity that it brings to this offense.
Only one new head coach in the division. It's in New Orleans with Kellen Moore, and the former quarterback has himself some big decisions to make at that position.
I think there's going to be highs and lows for all of them. There's going to be some good moments. There's going to be some rough moments that we get to learn from, and that's part of what training camp is about. And so I think anytime you come off an off day, there's a little bit of get back into it. I think it's good for our guys to get used to that. You have 3 really good days, you have an off day, and now you kind of got to hop back into it and start fast. And so, all of our guys can get used to that rhythm and routine, because that's how the season's going to go.
You got the rookie Shuck, you got Rattler, you got Haener. Mike, why do you think whoever ends up winning that quarterback position, that starting position, is going to be in position to succeed behind that line?
It's because they're going to be handing the ball off a lot. That is why. You look at Kellen Moore last year with one of the best running games in NFL history, what he had in Philadelphia. But also because, the Saints have, for all their much maligned offensive line that we saw last year, they are a high-end run-blocking offensive line. They have so many guys. I think all 5 of their starters, I would say, trend more towards run blockers than pass protectors. And this is an offensive line that's built to move people off the line of scrimmage. They just flat out are. And the way, after drafting Kelvin Banks, it kind of set everyone into the position they were supposed to be in. Like, Trevor Penning was always, to me, a guy coming out of Northern Iowa that felt like a guard at the NFL level. Taliasefuaga was a right tackle at Oregon State that they made him flip to the left side as a rookie. Now he moves back to the right side. Penning's in there at guard, and you have this dominant, what should be, run blocking unit. So whoever is at quarterback, well, hopefully they're going to be handing the ball off 30 to 40 times a game and have a lot of success there on the ground.
Yeah, to me, the optimism is Kellen Moore, and it's because of what you just talked about, like his ability to adapt to his personnel. We talked about it last year in Philadelphia. He was coming from LA Chargers and Dallas, where they threw the ball all over the yard. But going to Philly, he understands, I have a really good offensive line. I have Saquon in the backfield. Let me adjust my offensive scheme to the skill set of the team that I have. So that's why I think there's optimism there, because he's been able to do it with different personnel. In Dallas, they threw the ball around the yard. At the Philadelphia Eagles, he ran the ball all around the yard. Now, to Mike's point, this is probably a better run-blocking team. I still have question marks about Trevor Penning. But if this team finds themselves being behind in games, you're not going to be able to just sit back there and run the football. I think that's when you lean on the skill set of Kellen Moore to be able to adjust. Rashid Shaheed out there, Chris Olave, hopefully they can stay healthy. But they are 2 of the faster receivers in the NFL. And if anything I know about Kellen Moore is he wants to stretch the ball down the field. Now, first and foremost, he has to figure it out, like he just said in his press conference. Who is going to be our starting quarterback? They're in a 3-quarterback competition. But I like what I've seen from Kellen Moore in the past. That's what gives me optimism, because he can adjust to the personnel on his team.
He has adjusted, but he's had some good quarterbacks in Prescott, Herbert, and last season, Hurts. We'll see what his 3-headed monster will do here in camp as we get you the odds to win this division. It's pretty tight between the top 3. Bucks plus money, plus 110 to win their 5th straight. Falcons 2-1. Panthers 4-1. Saints the big long shot at 13-1.